Okay, I'm back again. I have another hand that I think I played poorly, and I think would benefit from some work in Pio. So it's all standard enough. I open the button. I don't normally open the button 3x, but the small blind is a dead small blind. So I don't know if this means I should be opening bigger or smaller, but I went with a 3x here. Again, the big blind 3 bets. Um, and I have a choice between 4 betting and flatting. Folding is pretty much out of the question. Again, looking at our opponent, I think he's a recreational given these stats. Not a whole lot of samples, so it could be something, just a sample size issue, just running card hot and playing the first few hands. But I think I would probably 3-bet tens versus a big blind, or 4-bet tens versus a big blind 3-bet some of the time, maybe 25% of the time, maybe 50% of the time. Definitely less often than versus a small blind 3-bet. But here I did decide to flat, and we took a flop. Ace 7-9, pretty bad for me. I don't really have any of the strong aces. I would most certainly be 4-betting ace king, and I would probably be 4-betting some suited aces and ace queen off, ace jack off, ace 10 off as a bluff. And so when I flat, I'm pretty capped at like weaker suited aces like ace jack, ace 10, maybe ace queen. He could definitely have nines still. He could definitely have aces. We could both probably have sevens, but me more likely. Regardless, the check, when he checks to me, should be an indication that I'm, as weird as it sounds, I'm already like drawing to 2 outs. I think everybody knows that an ace high board in a 3-bet pot favors the guy that 3-bet. And if he has queen 10 suited or, a bluff here where he missed, he's going to bet 100% of the time on an ace high board very easily. And so when he checks, I should immediately think that he has something like 10s through kings, or he 3-bet 8-9 suited. He actually has a reg and he's 3-betting hands like 8-9 suited or 10-9 suited, of which there's 2 combos. And now he's checking with second pair type deal. And so I guess I don't even know if once this happens, if I should just immediately start turning 10s into a bluff, but I think that might actually be, in the long run versus recreational, the right play. I'm pretty clearly dead here. Without swaying the ending, I should know that 10s are no good here right now, and that I should be able to turn them, or I should start turning them into a bluff at this point. But I don't. I check back. I think this is, if it went c-bet, I'd probably peel 1. But I think with the opportunity to take a free card and just kind of pot control a bit, I do decide to check back. Turn is another interesting card. It gives us, we're open-ended now. And again, our opponent checks. And so I think one of the things that I've noticed in Pio is that when you have like a pair plus draw type stuff, and you have the option to check it back and maybe bluff catch rivers, it really prefers to do that, right? And so like having the 10 of hearts means that if for some reason he didn't see that a hand like king queen, or he's just checking down king high, or like he might turn a 7 into a bluff on the river. I don't know what 7 he could have. He really can't have any, like 6-7 maybe. But like if say you open ace queen with 1 diamond and big blind calls, and the flop is ace high, 2 diamonds, you bet, they call, turn is a diamond. A lot of times, depending on villain, like I think checking back the turn is pretty good, because you could always improve if you're behind. You have a great bluff catcher on the river with a diamond, and do you really have a strong enough hand for 3 streets, yada yada, that type of stuff. And so when I turn open-ended here, I think to myself, all right, well, a lot of my equity is derived from, or any equity I have in this hand is derived from being open-ended, right? And so if he bets, I probably have to call and then turn my hand into a bluff on the river. But he checks, and I check back. And I think this is a mistake. I think I should, going off of what I know on the flop, I'm dead, and now I need to start turning my hand to a bluff. It doesn't matter that I have showdown value and a draw. My showdown value is clearly no good. I have a draw that is improved in equity significantly, and this is just like the nut barrel card, right? This is a mistake, in my opinion. I think, regardless of what Pio tells me, if it tells me to check back tens here, I think it's going to tell me to check back tens here because it thinks he has some check give-ups, which I don't think he ever has. I think he always has showdown value at this point. River is a bad card for me, even though no one really has anything here when it's gone check, 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 check. If I had 9-8 somehow, this is bad for me. And so I guess maybe this card is good for me if I had a hand like 6-7. But yeah, I mean, essentially, if he had a weak ace and was afraid of 9-8, he's now ahead of that. And so this is just a bad card. He bets half pot, and I don't know what possessed me to think, like, I think there was something like, I blocked Jack 10, yada yada. This is, once I've checked twice, I probably have to call here to not get bluffed too often, and I call it off. This is a mistake also. This is probably worse than the turn. This is actually very bad and significantly losing. Because he just always has some sort of showdown value that's ahead of tens. I guess I kind of leveled myself into thinking he could have a 9 that was betting thinly for value. But I don't really think that's ever true. And he shows us the suited wheel ace, which I guess makes sense. And I kind of like his line. I would probably just c-bet the flop on an ace-side board, but I don't hate, pot controlling with this type of hand. And so I guess some conclusions from this river is that, one, I'm not giving recreationals enough credit with their big blind 3-bets. Right. Obviously, my interpretation is that people are massively under bluffing, and so maybe this is a reg. Right. This is a hand a reg would turn into a bluff, or would not necessarily bluff, but would 3-bet out of the big blind because it's going to 3-bet linearly. And understanding that strategy is just overall plus EV is very reggy, as opposed to what a rec would do and just probably flat and take a flop here, which is plus EV for sure. And I don't know really what the Monker Sims say or whatever, but regardless, I'm either not giving people enough credit or I've just run into a reg that's played this hand pretty well, I think. Anyway, so that's nice. With what I knew, so I'm taking this approach as what I knew going into the hand, which might not be right. But again, this is the 3-betting range I'm assigning. Big blind, it's pretty strong, right? I don't think people are bluffing enough, or I didn't at the start of this hand, and so I would assign them pretty nutted ranges. 3-betting 9s half the time, and most of their stronger hands. In position, I'm flatting a lot on the button. I'm probably flatting 10s most of the time, sometimes 4-betting jacks, sometimes 4-betting. Sometimes 4-betting suited aces, not always, and sometimes calling and sometimes folding these types of hands. I bet ideally I'm supposed to turn some of these types of 7-4 suited type hands into 4-bet bluffs, but I don't know. I'd rather have the blocker, and again, I think people are under 3-betting, so I'll just under 4-bet. These hands too, I'd probably turn into 4-bet bluffs before flatting, so I think it's either 4-bet or fold these types of things on the button. For me anyway, but I could be wrong there. Anyway, looking at strategies. Yeah, so I guess I would expect a fair amount of bets from my opponent, and Pio seems to agree. When they check, even kings are supposed to bet pretty large on this board. Even pot, which is crazy to me. But yeah, I would probably just bet 1/3 here with my entire range, but not surprised to see that. Generally when I've capped myself at ace-queen, it's going to bet huge with ace-queen, and I guess starts to fall off once you get lower down into the range. But this makes sense to me. Equity out of position is just insane. Just because of how strong this range is, I guess. But this board also just smacks everything they have. Yeah, and EV is closer to 2/3. But, you know, it's actually 70%. All right, fair enough. 71%. Fair enough. But yeah, this is just a really good board for them, and I would expect them to bet a lot. And so when they do check, I have no idea what's happening. But I guess I'm glad to see checking back is good. And I'm betting most of my pairs that are on the board, which is interesting to me. I don't know if I'm doing it as a bluff or not, but yeah. That makes sense. Strongest nines, sure. Yeah, I think a lot of this is just happy to take showdown, so we check back. Turn is the 8 of hearts. Check again, which is weird. Yeah, now 10 should be an overbet, right? Because I blocked the nuts. I need to start turning my hand into a bluff. And yeah, I knew it, man. I knew it. This is a pretty bad misplay. And this is kind of what separates good players from bad players, is understanding that this guy has capped his range at a weak ace. If at best. I'm actually surprised he's shown up with that. And he most likely has kings through jacks, and we're going to fold that out a lot if we just overbet here. And especially with tens, man. Like, it's sixes too. I'm surprised to see sixes as a check. But yeah, I mean, especially when we just turn so much equity, just gotta get it in there, you know? But I check back because I'm bad. And then the river is, I don't know if the specific 7 is relevant. It's the 7 of spades. He bets half pot. And then, yeah, this is just a fold. I mean, I'm actually kind of embarrassed to be putting this video together because I should not have taken this line and called. Not thrilled with myself for calling. But, you know, make mistakes. Learn from them. That's the point. One thing I wanted to check is, how does the 8 change the equities? It's still so good for this range. Since it's such a strong range, I guess that's really, really changing things. But yeah, I mean, just overall, like, I'm very surprised I checked twice. And I guess I'm gonna go through this now. How I would play it, you know, I would probably bet 1/3, and then tens are just a snap muck. That makes sense, I guess. Just such little chance to improve. You know, and your 9x is actually a better call just because you have more outs, right? You generally have 3 more outs. Or actually, you have 5 outs and I have 2, yeah, so. Yeah, I mean, just 3 outs twice is 12%, right? So this all makes sense to me, especially with backdoor flush draws. I'm probably never raising 9x with a backdoor flush draw here. That is some very, very solver-esque stuff. And yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable. Like, I get that you're supposed to, maybe some amount of the time, but like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, right? You know, once I raise, I have no idea where I'm at in my range, and, you know, yada yada. Say it comes a king. What am I doing? You know, this is just weird. Anyway, interesting to see 10s is just a snap muck, but 10-9 is a call. But I guess that makes sense just equity-wise, especially with the backdoor flush draw. And you can like let it go if you have nothing. And interesting to see that it wants to check raise 6-5. It wants to check raise 6-5 with a backdoor flush draw, leaning towards the suit of the ace, which is interesting because I guess if you turn a heart, you can go bet, and maybe get them to fold river and not flush over flush yourself. Interesting. Fair enough, because they could have like ace-x suited. Sure, that makes sense. Wow, and yeah, I guess just understanding my range, that's kind of interesting. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I think this was just a pretty poorly played hand by myself, and I probably cost myself 20 bucks on the river there, 10 bucks on the river there. So just 10 blinds I could have saved. Fair enough. That's it.